Your family needs you, son.
On the next episode of Dutton Ranch.
Whole Jackson family's crooked. They ain't ranchers. They're thieves.
I need you ready for the hard parts when they come.
Beth Dutton has spent her entire life burying secrets so deep that no one could ever dig them up. But what happens when someone finally gets close enough to start digging? Because in the episode 7 trailer, something shifts, something cracks. And for the first time, Beth doesn't look like the most dangerous person in the room. She looks like someone who is running out of time. Bula isn't just asking uncomfortable questions anymore. She is circling Beth like she already knows the answer, and she is just waiting for the right moment to strike. And here is the part that should terrify every single Beth and Rip fan watching right now. Bula may have already found what she was looking for. Let's talk about what this trailer is actually showing us, because on the surface, it looks like just another intense episode of Dutton Ranch. But if you slow down and pay attention to every single detail, you start to realize that episode 7 is not just a confrontation episode. It is a turning point. And the title alone should tell you everything. Den of Sin. That is not a casual title. That is a warning. And the trailer delivers exactly that kind of energy from the very first second. Now, before we get into the trailer breakdown, let me quickly remind you where we left off in episode 6, because everything happening in this trailer connects directly to what was set up last week. We saw Rob, Will, and Chad reach a level of rage so dangerous that they were buying guns and encouraging Cadet to go after Joaquin. We saw Miguel show up without hesitation and shoot Cadet before things got completely out of hand. We saw Rip take Joaquin to Everett and use that vulnerable moment brilliantly to find out who dumped the body on the property. And perhaps most importantly, we saw Bula start asking pointed questions about John Dutton and Jamie, which told us very clearly that she is not just making small talk. She is testing Beth. She is poking at wounds she suspects are there. And Beth, for all her brilliance, cannot completely hide the reaction those names cause inside her. So now we walk into episode 7, and the trailer opens with an atmosphere that feels heavier than anything we have seen so far this season. There is a tension in every single frame that tells you this episode is not going to give anyone a moment to breathe. And the first thing that jumps out immediately is the way Beth is carrying herself. Because if you have been watching this show from the beginning, you know that Beth Dutton moves through every room like she owns it. She is sharp, she is controlled, and she never lets anyone see her sweat. But in this trailer, there are moments, just brief flickers, where that control slips. And those are the moments that matter the most. The trailer shows us what appears to be a private conversation between Beth and Rip, and the body language between them says everything their words might not. Rip looks like a man who is calculating his next 5 moves all at once, but Beth looks like someone who has just realized that one of her most carefully hidden cards has been spotted. And that is a version of Beth we almost never get to see. Because Beth's entire power comes from the fact that she always knows more than the person standing across from her. She is always 3 steps ahead. But right now, Bula is closing that gap faster than Beth anticipated, and the trailer makes that crystal clear. Now let us talk about Bula specifically, because this woman deserves so much more attention than she has been getting. From the very beginning of Dutton Ranch, Bula has been painted as this warm, sharp, business-minded woman who runs her family with a kind of quiet authority. But what the trailer for episode 7 is showing us is a completely different side of Bula. She is not warm in this trailer. She is calculated. There is a scene where Bula appears to be speaking to someone off camera, and the expression on her face is not the expression of a woman having a casual conversation. It is the expression of a woman who has made a decision. And that decision looks like it involves Beth directly. And here is where it gets really interesting, because we know from episode 6 that Bula has started connecting the dots around Jamie's death. She knows that Beth's reaction to Jamie's name is not the reaction of someone who simply grieved a family member. It is the reaction of someone who is carrying guilt. And Bula is smart enough to know the difference between grief and guilt. She has lived long enough and lost enough to understand what that particular kind of weight looks like on a person. Which means that every question Bula is asking Beth right now is not really a question at all. It is a trap. And Beth has been walking straight into it while believing she is the one setting the traps. But here is what makes this dynamic so incredibly layered and so addictive to watch. Beth is not naive. She knows that Bula is suspicious. She knows that those questions about John Dutton and Jamie were not innocent. So the real question the trailer is forcing us to ask is this. Does Beth try to get ahead of it and feed Bula a version of the truth that she can control? Or does she double down on the manipulation and risk Bula discovering the full story on her own? Because both of those paths lead somewhere dangerous. And the trailer suggests that Beth may have already made her choice, and it may already be too late to take it back. And if Bula finding out the truth about Jamie is not enough to keep you on the edge of your seat, then consider this. The trailer also gives us a glimpse of something happening between Everett and Bula that did not exist at the start of this season. We talked last episode about how these two shared a painful loss and how that grief had driven them apart. But now they are being pulled back together. And the trailer suggests that this reunion between Everett and Bula is happening much faster than anyone expected, which raises a question that should make every Beth and Rip fan deeply uncomfortable. Because if Everett starts sharing what he knows with Bula, and if Bula already suspects what she suspects about Jamie, then Beth and Rip are no longer just fighting Rob Will for control of Ten Petal Ranch. They are fighting a woman who may be about to find out that Beth is responsible for the death of someone Bula loved. So ask yourself this. If Bula already knows more than she is letting on, and if Everett is getting closer to her by the episode, exactly how much longer does Beth have before her darkest secret stops being a secret at all? Section 2. Now let us shift our focus to Rip, because while Beth is dealing with the most dangerous situation of her life on the social and emotional battlefield, Rip is fighting his own war on a completely different front. And the trailer for episode 7 makes it very clear that Rip's next moves are going to be some of the boldest and most calculated we have seen from him yet. Because Rip Wheeler has never been the kind of man who waits for the storm to come to him. He walks directly into it. And that is exactly what we are about to watch him do. The trailer gives us what looks like Rip making his move toward Rob Will. And based on everything that was set up in episode 6, this confrontation has been building for a long time. Remember, Rob Will is not just an angry man with a grudge. He is a man who feels genuinely cheated out of something he believes is rightfully his. He grew up believing that Ten Petal Ranch was his birthright. He watched Joaquin get closer and closer to the center of that world. And then Rip arrived, and everything Rob Will thought he understood about his position started shifting underneath his feet. That kind of rage does not cool down, it builds. And when the trailer shows us Rob Will's face, you can see that it has been building into something that is now almost impossible to contain. But what makes Rip's approach in this trailer so fascinating to watch is the way he is choosing to handle it. Because Rip is not just going after Rob Will out of anger or pride. He is going after him with a strategy. And that strategy involves Joaquin. Now think about how remarkable that actually is for a moment. Rip Wheeler, the man who came to Ten Petal Ranch as an outsider, has now managed to align himself with Joaquin, the man who is essentially the closest thing to a legitimate heir that ranch has. He has turned the two brothers against each other without either of them fully realizing that Rip is the one holding the strings. That is not just confidence. That is a level of intelligence and patience that most people completely underestimate when they look at Rip. And the trailer shows us something very specific about this dynamic that I think a lot of people are going to miss on their first watch. There is a moment where Rip and Joaquin appear to be moving together towards something or someone, and the way they are positioned tells you that these two are not just tolerating each other anymore. They have formed a genuine working alliance. Joaquin trusts Rip now, at least enough to move alongside him. And that trust did not happen by accident. Rip earned it in episode 6 by being there at Joaquin's most vulnerable moment, and using that moment not just to gain information, but to make Joaquin feel protected. That is a very specific and very deliberate kind of manipulation, and it is working. Now here is where the trailer takes the Rob Will storyline somewhere we were not fully expecting, because the confrontation between Rip, Joaquin, and Rob Will does not appear to go the way Rip planned. And that is the part of this trailer that should have everyone paying very close attention. Rob Will is cornered, he knows it, but a cornered man with nothing left to lose is always the most dangerous kind of enemy. And Rob Will proves that in this trailer by doing something that is either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid depending on how you look at it. He starts talking. And the things he starts saying are aimed directly at cracking the alliance between Rip and Joaquin right down the middle. Because Rob Will does not fight back with fists in this trailer. He fights back with words. And those words are pointed directly at Joaquin. He starts suggesting, very loudly and very deliberately, that Joaquin has been working with Rip all along. Now on the surface, that sounds like a desperate man throwing accusations around to save himself. But think about it from Joaquin's perspective for just a moment. Joaquin is a man who has spent his entire life watching people try to take advantage of his family. He has seen manipulation up close. He knows what it looks like. So when Rob Will starts planting that seed, even if Joaquin does not fully believe it in the moment, that seed is now inside his mind. And seeds like that have a way of growing in the dark. And the trailer seems to suggest that Rip feels this shift happening in real time. There is a moment where Rip's expression changes very slightly, and if you are watching carefully, you can see him recalibrating. Because Rip knows that the one thing that could genuinely destroy everything he has built at Ten Petal Ranch is losing Joaquin's trust. Everything else he can manage. Every other obstacle he can outmaneuver. But if Joaquin starts questioning whether Rip has been using him this entire time, then the alliance that took so long and so much careful work to build could start to fall apart faster than either of them can stop it. But even with all of that tension building around Rip and the Rob Will confrontation, the trailer saves some of its most powerful moments for something happening completely separately. And that something involves Miguel. Now, we talked about Miguel after episode 6 and how his loyalty to the Jacksons is on a completely different level from anyone else on that ranch. But the trailer for episode 7 is showing us a Miguel who is doing more than just being loyal. He is watching, he is observing, and the specific thing he appears to be watching in this trailer is Rip. Not Rob Will, not Cadet, Rip. And that detail is so important that I genuinely think most people are going to scroll right past it without realizing what it means. Because Miguel watching Rip so closely tells us that Miguel has started to suspect something. He is not acting on it yet. He is not confronting anyone. But he is gathering information. And Miguel is not the kind of man who gathers information for no reason. He gathers it because he is preparing for something. And when a man with Miguel's skill set and Miguel's loyalty to the Jacksons starts preparing, the person he is preparing against needs to take that very seriously. Rip may have won over Joaquin. He may have outmaneuvered Rob Will. He may have positioned himself perfectly within the ranch's power structure. But Miguel is a threat that none of Rip's current strategies seem to account for. And the trailer is telling us that this oversight could cost Rip in a very serious way before this season is over. Now let us bring Zachariah and Azul back into the conversation because the trailer also gives us a hint about where their presence at Ten Petal Ranch is heading. Their arrival in episode 6 was significant because it showed us just how much Rip's influence and reach has grown. These are not just ranch hands. These are men who are loyal to Rip personally. Men he brought in deliberately to strengthen his position. But the trailer seems to suggest that their presence is now starting to attract attention from people who were not supposed to notice them yet. And that attention appears to be coming from exactly the direction Rip least wants it to come from right now.